Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you have got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chatty. This is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting away madly about what I read in December. So I read 6 books in December, some planned, some not planned. It was very much kind of a bit of a mishmash. December was crazy, and it was just kind of what book I felt like picking up at the time. But I'll go more into that when I do my stats. So I'm just going to chat through each book. I don't plan on doing any spoilers, so this should be spoiler free. So if you're a bit worried about that, it should be fine. And if there are any, because I just do one continuous shot, I don't edit the video, I will tell you if I'm going to do spoilers and give you plenty of warning. So get yourself a nice warm drink or cold drink, whatever you fancy, or just crack on if you're doing some chores. Happy to keep you company. So I'm just going to do my little teacup gimmick. So here's the tiny teacup. Clink, 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 clink. It is one shot. There is no editing. We are going to embrace the waffle. I'm not feeling too waffly today, so I feel I might be all right. So the first book I'm going to talk to you about is a non-fiction. This is Black Girl No Magic by Kimberly McIntosh. So this is, it's quite a short book. I saw it in my library and I was just immediately drawn to it. One, the cover's lilac. I love purple. And I just really liked the line Black Girl No Magic as a fun spin on the Black Girl Magic idea. And then I started I picked it up, had a look, started reading it. I was like, yes, I'm taking this with me. I don't tend to read nonfiction in the autumn months just because my brain is fuzz and I usually need I need an active brain for nonfiction. Usually, but this felt manageable. It has taken me a few months. I started it in October and I've just continuously read it, and I did finish it at the end of December. So it has taken me a long time to get through, even though it's short, but just because I need to be in the right frame of mind to take it in and do it justice. I did really enjoy this book. There were a lot of things that I'd never considered in here that Kimberly brought to the forefront. So she's from sort of like working class background, and she ended up having a scholarship at I suppose like middle school that was either completely or mainly full of white students. So she had 2 very kind of different like culture clashes. So she kind of has awareness of different cultures and kind of how they meld together and sort of different things. So it was really interesting watching her explore all of that. And she then, it kind of talks through going on to university and sort of like early 20s, working life. And she has done a lot on kind of, what's the exact wording in here? Social policy research and campaign work. So she does a lot of like research into why is our society the way it is, and kind of different collectives of people. And she really took a good look at classism in this. As well as racism, stereotypes, and how we treat different people's genders, just lots of different kind of aspects of society. 2 areas that I thought were particularly interesting that she was looking in was in relation to casual sex and recreational drugs, and just kind of how she sort of explored the sort of expectations that society has, like societal norms, and how different people react to certain things and different people's expectations of you, like prejudgments around that. One of the best examples I can give is how she spoke about if people kind of have said that they have taken recreational drugs. If you are a white middle class person, you are much more likely to just have that treated as something you did. If you are working class and black, you're more likely to be treated like a criminal. And it was really fascinating how she unpacked that and explored that. So I thought this was a really insightful read, and I'm very glad that I read it. The first book that I picked up and fully read in December was one that I have been highly anticipating for over a year, and it is The Snow Girl by Sophie Anderson. So I was very excited when I saw there's a new Sophie Anderson coming out last year, and particularly excited that we have a hardback. We have this gorgeous sort of inky purple cover, and we have a girl on the front in white. So obviously the colour of snow, she is the snow girl, and within her dress it says the snow girl, and then you've got in sort of blues and purples like different animals and kind of pine trees and snowy things around it, and that just perfectly sums up the feeling of the book. What Sophie Anderson does so well in her fantasy middle grade books is the Slavic folktale, and it's this whole warm storytelling feeling. There's a sense of family, there's a wonderful sense of atmosphere and the magic of stories within them, and this one was absolutely no exception. I had actually earlier in the year not enjoyed the Castle of Tancred Magic as much as I wanted to. I was so excited because I've heard so many people say that like that was one of their favourites, that the Sophie Anderson books they felt like just really got better, and I know the Castle of Tancred Magic was one where everyone kind of like loved it as much as the House with Chicken Legs, which does tend to be people's favourite one. But I didn't love it as much because for me, I just didn't get the emotional connection. I thought the storytelling in the fantasy world was fabulous, but I just didn't quite feel there was like a character arc, whereas there had been with the protagonists of both the other books I read, The House with Chicken Legs and The Girl Who Speaks Bear. So I was a little bit apprehensive when reading The Snow Girl, so I think I lowered my expectations a little bit, but it surpassed them. What I will say, picking up The Snow Girl, it's not as fantastical as her other books are. The magic is the creation of this snow girl who comes to life, and the story of the snow girl. There isn't any other magic in terms of the fantastical sense. However, it does feel very magical to be in this community, within nature, within like the ice and the beauty of the world within that. And the atmosphere is just so perfectly placed. It feels cold. It feels really cold when you're reading this. But the heart of the book is Tasha, who has come to stay with her grandfather and with her parents. So her grandfather is poorly. He's not as able to do things as he was before. Tasha has struggled with something that happened to her. They used to live by the sea, so it's a big kind of life change for them, but she's kind of happy about it because it's almost like she's been able to just put her past behind her and think of something else. She's like helping feed the goats, she's enjoying all these things, but she's very much staying with her family, and they're all encouraging her to go. There's like 3 or 4 other children around. They're encouraging her to go and meet them and play with them and maybe try ice skating, maybe try riding a horse, and she doesn't want to do that because it doesn't feel safe. So it's also the story of Tasha and how she finds friendship and how she finds her courage, and we find out what happens to her. We hear kind of her continued relationship with her grandfather and this community and how they survive like being very isolated, and that they are all really supportive and help each other. And the snow and the ice seem to be getting much harder than is normal even for them. It feels like a really rough winter, which isn't good news for this community. So there's so much heart in this book. It's there was a lot of emotional impact, and that's the thing that really draws me in. So I had an immediate emotional connection to Tasha, and it delivered on all those things. So I had a really good time with this book. Next, I managed to continue with a series that I started last year and read a book that I've had on my shelf for a long time, because again, I am a seasonal reader, and reading Frederick Buckman's Beartown series in winter seems to me the only time to read it because I like to read books seasonally. So I read Us Against You by Frederick Buckman. Last year I read Beartown, was taken by surprise with how much I loved Beartown. And Us Against You is a perfect follow-up to that. Pardon me. You are following the same characters you met in Beartown on the whole. You're still following this community, and you kind of see how they continue in life after the effects of what happened in Beartown. So you've got a mixture of adult characters, of teenage characters. You also hear a little bit more about Beartown's rivals, like the other, like the sort of the bigger town to Beartown, which name I have forgotten. It's not going to tell me, just 2 towns, 2 teams. But the way Bachman writes this just fully brings you in. There's like snippets that you're given about what might happen and what will happen. And it's just this storytelling, it really does pull you in. It gives you, there's a tension there. There's a fear for these characters that you know and love. There's also this understanding of how events happen to build up this tension and frustration. Like, just as like a calm persona, where you're having a good day, you're feeling great, and you hear about an act of violence and you're like, that's crazy. Why would someone do that? Frederick Buckman explains how that person gets to that point of doing that. You might not agree with them, but it's clear where that came from. And that just comes across so well in this. Just all these different people, different life stories, different places they've come to. It kind of culminates in this. There is a lot of highs and lows. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of stuff that's going to make you angry. And yeah, it just really does a good job. I really want to read the winners. I'm slightly apprehensive because I don't know what more we've got in store. But it just explored a lot of things that people go through, just life choices, emotional decisions, and the characters that you've grown to love just kind of continue to go through the mill. But you see like the strengths and the friendships that grow with that. And yeah, I had a great time with it. Beartown is still my favourite just because of just how impactful the subject matter in Beartown was and the certain arcs characters went on within that. But this was a great follow-up for this community and continuing to share the struggles within this community. Next, I have a reread, and that is Ballet Shoes. Oh, the ribbon has slipped. It's got a little ribbon. Is it stuck there? There we go. So it's a lovely white hardback, and we have the original illustration of the three fossil sisters, Pauline, Petrova, and Posy, in the centre, making their vow to put their name in the history books. And surrounding them, we have the drama masks for Pauline, the aeroplane for Petrova, and the ballet shoes for Posy. And then it's all picked out in maroon, and then we have a maroon ribbon around the white book as well. So it's a really nice copy that I've never read from. So I had an old paperback at my mum's that I read quite a lot. So this is my copy that I got in 2021 and never read. So I'm really happy to read it. Definitely around Christmas time, it feels like a great time to be picking up a childhood classic. And Ballet Shoes really kind of helps with that kind of warm feeling of family, like trying to make ends meet, appreciation of gifts. And there's a few Christmases in here that they talk about, and the excitement they have about a Christmas tree just makes me laugh a little bit about how capitalism, we have kind of come a long way in terms of all the extra bits we feel the need for at Christmas time. But this essentially is a story of just trying to follow your dreams, trying to work together as a family. There is a lot around money and making ends meet in here, and what they're trying to do, sacrifices they make, and how they kind of go about trying to earn their way. So they all end up at different points. You get the beginnings of each of these children ending up coming to this house. They're different characters and different people that come and stay in the house. The house is turned into a boarding house to kind of make ends meet, and the different people that come and live there kind of also add to this wider family. And the girls end up being enrolled in a dancing school where they learn ballet, tap, singing, and then when they are 12 they can go and get their licenses and they can be hired and paid for doing productions on the stage. So that's how these girls want to kind of help towards the family living, by getting these roles. So it's not just I want to get this role to help my career, it's I need money to support my family. So that is a kind of a big theme throughout this book, and it was just so lovely to join these characters again. There is a BBC adaptation that's slightly different because they do a lot more with their guardian Sylvie in that book, but it has Victoria Wood as Nana, which is wonderful. And it was a BBC adaptation of the Ballet Shoes story, and I feel like I really want to go and watch it now. But yeah, I had a great time rereading this book. I lie, it wasn't 6 books, it was actually 7 books, because there's a book I haven't got here on here and I didn't put a placeholder in, but I actually read This Winter by Alice Oseman. I tried to get the ebook from the library via BorrowBox, but someone else was reading it, which was really rude, and I really wanted to read it at that point because I love Alice Oseman. I was really looking forward to reading a novella about the Hearstopper gang, and it's set at Christmas, and it was Christmas. So I was really keen to get that. So I ended up doing the audiobook, which was available from my library. You don't even have to go. Like, you literally have BorrowBox, and it's there immediately in front of you. So that was great. I haven't done an audiobook for an Alice Oseman before, so I was a little bit worried because obviously I've read all the Heartstopper books and Solitaire, so I know Nick and Charlie quite well, and Tori, and so I wasn't sure what their voices were going to be like. Not my favourite audiobook, but there's nothing wrong with it, just because I'm not someone... I'm a bit of a control freak, so I don't always like someone else telling me how the story goes, because I want to decide how the story goes. So I did struggle a tad with that, but I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the difficulties that both Charlie and Tori had around the Christmas period, and how you got to see them. And we get a little bit from Tori's perspective, then from Charlie's perspective, then you get a little bit from Oliver Spring as well, their little brother. So it kind of fits in the middle of Heartstopper 4, and it's just before Solitaire in terms of the chronology of it. So I had a great time with that. I then did the ebook did come in, and I did read some of it. I can't remember why I didn't carry on. I think I was possibly distracted by my children and just general Christmasness going on. But I did read some of it, and there were some bits that were slightly different. Different words were used at different points. For example, like, there's a moment where Charlie has an argument with his mum, and I think the language was changed because the language possibly was slightly more ableist. So I think the language was changed slightly. So I think the audiobook was before the I think the audiobook was like the newer version, and the ebook, because there's 2 different covers now. A lot of Alice Oseman's books have got these different covers where it's her artwork that has been coloured, as opposed to the cover design where it was like a little symbol or and with a big block of colour behind it in like black and white. So I think that ebook was like the older version, and Alice had edited it when she did the new cover and changed it slightly to be stuff she's more comfortable with, because I know she did that with Solitaire. She wrote Solitaire when she was really young. Yeah, so that was just interesting. I would have loved to have had a little bit more on that, and I'd love to have the 2 copies side by side and compare, because I'm a nerd and love doing stuff like that. Anyway, I really enjoyed this winter. Not a huge amount to say about it because it's so short. I could easily have carried on reading and continued and explored more and more and more, but it was a nice little snapshot. So yes, I also read and enjoyed this winter. The final book I'm going to talk to you about, this is the last book that I finished in December, and it is Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. This is a middle grade fantasy, one that I've heard so many people love and adore. So I had quite high expectations going into this, and they were beautifully met. Within the first couple of small chapters, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be incredible. You can tell from the writing style, you can tell from the storytelling narrative that this is going to be a classic. Within years to come, it's going to be one of those books, just like Ballet Shoes, that's going to have that classic edition. It's going to have its own thing. You just can feel it. Just from that way of telling a story. It's just going to appeal to so many people. Also the world building, this lovely kind of portal between our world and to this one, and the lore of the magical creatures. It all just kind of worked seamlessly. You have one character who is from the magical world, and you have one character who is from the ordinary world, and they end up meeting, and something is threatening the creatures and they need to try and work out what it is and try and see if they can put a stop to it. But they are being hunted by obviously people who do not have their best wishes at heart. You start to meet a few more characters. You end up with this lovely like little found family ragtag group. There's a bigger kind of mystery going on that ends up being solved. There are lots of moments of danger. There's moments of joy. There's moments of sorrow in here. There is a lot more sorrow than I was expecting, and a bit more darkness than I was expecting for a middle grade. And yeah, it's just beautifully, beautifully done. However, I found I did not connect with the main character, Christopher, and with Mal as much as I could have done. And I don't know if it's because it's my adult brain from its epic fantasyness wanting more of these emotional arcs, or if it is just the fact, like I said before, for me the key thing is that emotional connection. And there was hinted at difficulties within Christopher's life, but it never really kind of took you there. So Christopher's got a very, very, very overprotective dad. He also has this affinity with animals that he's really not sure of. He's lost his mum from a very young age, and he goes to see his maternal grandfather and stay with his maternal grandfather. And that kind of resolution between him feeling a bit hampered by his dad, finding out more about his mum, we don't get that emotional kind of payoff and kind of summary and conclusion. I don't know if there's a second book coming. I don't know if we're going to get it in the second book, or if the second book is going to be about these worlds but completely different sets of characters. I don't know, because the story does feel finished within this installment, but there is definitely areas to kind of continue within this world. So I don't know what Catherine Rundle is going to do with it. But I just felt like Christopher's journey, it was like, here he is at the start of the book. He has a magical adventure and has been through a lot of things, but here he is at the end of the book, not too dissimilar to where he was when he started. So for me, what I love the most about protagonists and middle grade ones is that they start somewhere, they go on this journey and adventure, and then they end up somewhere else, and suddenly like they're a lot more confident as a child, or they've discovered that actually this friend of theirs is a toxic bully. Like, I like there to be some kind of resolution they've had within themselves at the end, and I don't think we got that from Christopher. So that's why I didn't love it as much as other books, whereas all the other middle grade that I've been reading, there has been that journey for that protagonist. But that being said, beautifully written, incredible story, wonderful world building. If you love middle grade and fantasy, you're going to have an amazing time with this book. And that is me done. Under half an hour of doing a wrap up of what I've been reading. Who am I with this incredibly short video? I told you I wasn't waffly today. Marvellous. Let me know what your thoughts are on any of these books, if you feel like picking them up, if you've read them. I have not spoken to you about Wisteria. There we go. I've just noticed I've got this book here because I started there and went that way and totally forgot I didn't do Wisteria. I'm so sorry, Wisteria. So let's ignore that. Told you the chaos happens. Okay. I have Wisteria by Adeline Grace, which is the third book in the Belladonna series. I believe it is the final book. I believe that is the case. You feel I should know from having read it. I think it's a trilogy. So within this book, we're not following the same protagonist. Our protagonist is now a side character, and we have a different character that we are following. So it's one that we've previously met in the other books. So the two main characters, so the love story in Wisteria is from two characters that we meet in Foxglove, but we still have I'll just look up her name. Signa. I can never remember her name because I always just want to call her Belladonna. We still have Signa in this book, but she is a secondary character within this one. We still have this, the vibe of the world being this kind of sort of Regency Victorian-esque period, but with this kind of more supernatural aspects. It feels a bit more gothic-y, and I'm really trying hard to make sure I do not reveal anything from Belladonna and Foxglove with describing this book. That is why it is so vague. But the atmosphere is still very much there. Adeline Grace's writing style with her feisty heroines, the quick wit and banter, the world building and the atmosphere, all is still wonderfully in there. I think I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as the others just because I know we have a change of protagonist. And as much as I really love the protagonist in here, it was the Signa story that really pulled me into the books previously. And we didn't get, because of the nature of the story, we didn't get quite so much of the societal comedy of manners that we had previously, which is another thing that I really appreciate. Having said that, I thought the plot was really interesting. I didn't kind of get pulled into the stakes until about halfway through. And then there were things that pulled from the previous books that kind of came into being here, and things that were explored as our character kind of comes into their powers and starts to understand what's happening. And there is kind of enjoyment of working out the connection between the two love interests in this book. I was a tad concerned that there could be kind of fated mates, for want of a better phrase. There's no werewolves in here, just making that clear, or fae, but that kind of concept, I was worried that was going to be in here, but it was handled the way I like it, where everything has to actually feel earned. The connection between the love interests is because of things they do, because of things they say, and that changes their feelings towards each other, which is how I prefer it, because I feel personally, I feel fated mates is a cop-out and it doesn't do it for me. So I appreciated that. I was rooting for the characters. I enjoyed the story. It was a really interesting way to finish it all up. If it's finished. There is a small leeway of it. Possibly there could be other things, because I still feel there is a aspect of the plot in terms of Signa's story, in terms of family history, that I felt we haven't got to the bottom of. It might be a case of that's how it's intended, like not all ends need to be tied up, but there is a possibility. There is also this aspect of, in terms of the supernatural, we are given characters like death as an embodiment. There are also other characters that are spoken of that are embodiments, so I don't know if there are going to be other stories with those other types of characters in there. I don't know. This was a fun time. Like I said, I didn't love it as much as Belladonna and Foxglove, but I think that is the nature of those things I loved in those books being missing from this one. But that said, I still really enjoyed this book, and I enjoy the series as a whole. Ta-da! I am still under 30 minutes, so that's all good. So those are the 7 books I read in December. Let me know any of your thoughts you have on those, and please tell me what you are currently reading, because who knows, this could go out in March for all I know. So there's no point me saying, what did you read in December? Because we have passed it. It's gone. We are mid to end of January as I film this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you want to give me a little emoji to let me know you're there, please do a snowflake for the snow girl. Happy reading, everyone.